Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives to do so. To the scattered hopeful elect across the four corners of the earth, and those among the heathen nations that look like the heathen nations, pursuant to Jeremiah 12:9, known as the speckled birds. This is not a black thing. I am disciple of Parium, a follower of Great Millstone, coming to you with a lesson in truth and sincerity. This lesson is going to be titled Stewards of a Gift. So I want to go into the word steward, and it's one who has charge of the affairs of the household or estate of another, and one who manages affairs of an estate on behalf of his employer. Now we're going to the letter into the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, and verse 11. Now this is going to the story of Samuel, who was the last judge and the first prophet of Israel. His father was Elkanah. He was a Levite priest, and his mother was Hannah. Now, Elkanah had a handmaid who had children, but she treated Hannah very poorly. And so Hannah here is seen vowing and praying unto the Lord. So let's start in verse 11 from 1 Samuel 1. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord. That's 2 times it appeared, all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. So she's praying unto the Lord Yahweh, to receive a child, to be with a child. Verse 12 goes into Eli, and it came to pass as she continued praying before the Lord Yahweh 3, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Eli was a high priest at the time, and that word marked goes into the word shamar, Strong's H8104, and it's to keep guard, and also goes into perform vow. Now, definition is to hedge about with thorns, preserve. So it kind of reminds me of Ezekiel 9:4. Similar to that work, the wa, which is the mark of exemption, right? It says, "Go into the men who sigh and cry, and mark them," right? So let's get that real quick. I'm paraphrasing, so that's where we're going to grab it so we can read the full context. It says, "And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof." And it's not what we do when we preach on Fridays. The men of Great Millstone, they go out there and they sigh and cry, and they're speaking truth to power. Okay. Now going back to 1 Samuel, going to verse 17. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the power of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. She's asking in the name. Okay. Was that John 14:14, where it says, Ask of me in thy name, and I will grant it. See, ask ye, if it's like first, this is John 14:14. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. All right, going back to 1 Samuel, and then we'll go jump down to verse 27. It says, For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me the petition which I asked him. That was 4 right there. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord Yahweh, all as long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord Yahweh. 6, and the worship, and he worshipped the Lord there. That's 7. So this word lent is not exactly going to, oh, look, she just kind of lent him for a little bit. No, no, no. That word lent goes into um, uh, all the days he shall be asked or required by, or slacking, for the Lord, the one that was given in her prayer. So here, Hannah acted as a steward unto Samuel, a gift that was dedicated to her vow and prayer. And we know that steward is an overseer, one who manages the affairs of an estate on behalf of their employer, a person who supervises the arrangements. And that's what we do as parents. We're stewards unto the Lord. Now we're going to go to Psalms chapter 71, verses 5 and 6. For thou art my God. For thou art my hope, O Lord, power. Thou art my trust from the youth. By thee have I been holden up from the womb, that thou art he that took me out of my mother's bowels. My prayers shall be continually of thee. And that word holden goes into the word samak, lean, rest upon, revive, as to one that's being quickened, with this word. So let's go to Psalms 127, verses 3 through 5. Lo, children are an inheritance of the Lord Yahweh, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. All right, so we go to Genesis 33 and 5 real quick. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the woman and children, and said, Who are those with thee? And he said, The children which God hath graciously given thy servant. All right, servant, steward, very synonymous. Now, verse 4, it says, As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children in thy youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them, and they shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. And the NLT reads, He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates. Who's the accuser of our brethren? That's Esau Edom. All right. So it's similar to Luke chapter 1 in Zechariah's prophecy. We'll start in verse 69. Oh. And he reads, And hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. That's Yahweh Shai. He came from the loins and lineage of David. Verse 70, And as he spake by the mouth of the holy prophets, which have been since the world began. So that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us. All right, going back to that Psalms 127, verse 5. So now let's go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1 and 5. And it reads, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. And that word sanctified goes into Strong's H6942, Quadash, separate, set apart, holy, and dedicate. And he ordained, which goes into the words Strong's H5414, the word Nathan. Okay, and that means to permit, employ, dedicate, pay wages, assign, all signs of a soldier. Okay, but even a soldier is not a soldier from the beginning. A soldier has to come into being by stewards, right? Who set up arrangements, you know, as that, they're teaching. All right. So a soldier in the etymology is one who obeys the command of and contends in the cause of another, especially in faith. Just go to James 2:18. It says, "Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works." Faith without works is death. Now Hannah had faith, and she acted upon it with prayer and a vow to the Lord. All right. Now Samuel, he was again the last judge and Israel's first prophet, transitioned Israel from judges to a monarchy. Now Jeremiah, delivered Yahweh's message to the people of Judah, during the time of the Babylonian captivity, of impending judgment for their sins, but offering hope for future restoration. All right, and that's what we're looking toward. Now, all were raised of stewards, trained up in the way that they should go and not depart. Proverbs 22:6. Now, children are a gift from Yahweh, not as our own possession. And we are entrusted in raising them in Yahweh while Yahweh Shai's ways. So Sirach 2:10 in the GNT reads, "Think back to the ancient generations and consider this. Has the Lord ever disappointed anyone who put their hope in him? Has the Lord abandoned anyone who held him in constant reverence? And has the Lord ever ignored anyone who prayed to him?" So I pray this lesson was edifying. Going to stewards of a gift. I want to say Kwam Yasharella. Shalom, shalom. On to the next.